Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 and also streaming live on the web at WFHR.com. And we also welcome our friends at, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Okay, my good buddy Jesse is here, making sure I look really good on TV. Yeah, that's your local community access cable, and they have. Is it still the same web address?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
For the time being.
For the time being. Right. But it's Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. And you can check them out on your local cable station or go to the website. And the reason why they're here is it's time for our monthly visit with Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Carl, and to our listeners.
Okay, well, I have to ask you this. Last night, big night in Wisconsin Rapids, our Wisconsin Rapids Rafters win the South Division Championship. They're in the Northwoods League Summer Collegiate World Series, best 2 out of 3 against Eau Claire. So I'm thinking, Eau Claire, Wisconsin Rapids. Okay, Your Honor, you got a little side bet going with your counterpart in the city of Eau Claire for the World Series?
We'll have to figure something out, Carl. I'll take your suggestions.
Okay. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the importance of what this does for exposure for the community. You're going to have the World Series, Collegiate World Series here. And you got the World, you already had the whole Northwoods League season, but you also had the State Water Ski Show tournament. But now you got the Collegiate World Series. You're going to have the World Water Ski tournament. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better summer of exposure for this area.
Yeah. Well, it's millions of dollars collectively when you look at all of those events in terms of economic impact. I know when the State Water Ski Show happened, and we looked at, I had sort of the numbers for economic impact because of spectators and performers alike, and then obviously just the local participation. It was over $1.5 million just over a weekend of economic impact and influx of dollars into the community. The World Water Ski Show is looking to be in the millions of dollars because of the worldwide impact and folks coming from all over the world. You've got 5 countries with performers from Canada to the U.S. to China to Germany to others. So it's really a major impact. And obviously the hospitality industry, whether it's restaurants or hotels or any other service business, certainly receive a bump from that because these folks don't cook at home and that sort of thing. I mean, they're here to spend their time in the community, and the performers for the World Water Ski Show are here over a week, so there's a longer duration of an economic impact. But a smaller community like ours, you have a tendency to overlap some of these things. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks here for us, as you just indicated, with the World Series now.
And during that time, people are going to see Wisconsin Rapids. It's going to be in the news. I mean, and just having that. Your name out there, that's free advertising.
Yeah, it's funny because even people that don't know much about the community, but that I talk to that are from outside the community and say, well, don't you have a baseball team there? It's it's very interesting because they're hearing it on their local newscast at night when they're doing sports.
Or if they're watching the Brewers on TV, they have on their the line they're running the scores, and they show Northwoods League during the summer, so they're seeing Wisconsin Rapids. I mean,
that's right.
You can't buy advertising.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's very good earned media, and it's even better when you've got your teams performing like the Rafters are right now. It's really incredible to see what kind of season they've been able to achieve.
I should mention for those of you who, and if you're wondering why there might be a line or people stopping by the box office, the tickets for the World Series went on sale at 9 this morning. So if you're noticing some people gathering by Whitterfield, that's what they're there for.
Yeah. Well, it's a neat investment, obviously to tout the Rafters and the city's partnership with the Rafters again, because we receive lease payments annually from the Rafters organization, but it's even far and beyond that, right? It's all of the local families and community members that get to partake in an evening of fun. Rafters have made it affordable for families to attend games and to have an evening of fun, which is really a cool thing.
It was nice to visit with Liz Kern, who's now the VP of Operations for Big Top Baseball, the ownership group who owns Wisconsin Rapids, Madison, Kenosha, and Green Bay. And in fact, we did our live remote out there before the first playoff game, and it was just kind of nice to reminisce about that night. I said, well, remember when we was at this TV at the TV studio where they had a reception and an announcement that the Northwoods League was coming to Wisconsin Rapids. Yeah. Ironically, I remember one of the gentlemen I ran into and talked to about the Northwoods League that night, interviewed him, was a gentleman from the Eau Claire Express. Now we're going to be playing them for the championship. Yeah. Okay, I got to ask you this, because if I don't, I will betray my job as a journalist. You did something, well, it's not unusual for mayors to endorse candidates.
Sure.
But especially in this case around here, normally it's a nonpartisan office.
Right.
So we understand people. I remember seeing Mary Jo Carson at Republican rallies for Tommy Thompson. Hey, okay, no big deal. But you and the mayor of Stevens Point, the big story, you're endorsing Russ Feingold in the U.S. Senate race.
Right.
And that kind of shocked some people.
Okay.
Why did you decide to make an endorsement?
Well, it wasn't just Mayor Wiesa and I. It was actually 28 other mayors from around Wisconsin that both collectively released our endorsements right after the primary was over. So the day after the election that happened a couple of weeks ago, and really many of us it was different because our experiences with our current U.S. Senator were, different communities receive different exposure via their elected representatives. And here in Wisconsin Rapids, Senator Johnson and I overlap my entire time in office since he's been in the Senate. And since that time, he has not only ignored, unfortunately, our requests to solicit federal funding for economic development efforts and other federal investments, which has left us to wonder, why are we sending all of our tax dollars to Washington if we're not going to solicit or seek to receive those dollars back in the state? And I think on his behalf, it was very much in principle that believes in austerity and no government spending, which, for those of us that have watched the process and to see how that's played out, in places like Wisconsin Rapids, where we need to partner with our federal legislators or even federal agencies to solicit funding for different efforts and initiatives that we're looking to do here locally, as well as we've done with the state, right? We've worked really well with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and have publicly praised that agency for their investments that they've been making. And since the state legislature and the governor has changed over that leadership, but it really came down to really understanding and the willingness that Russ has for community development and supporting the community of Wisconsin Rapids. And so it wasn't about partisanship. It wasn't about all of the issues that are a part of the race, because many people are not one issue voters. And for me, it was more of a view that we need representation in Washington that's going to support the success of Wisconsin Rapids. And unfortunately, in my time and tenure in office, it hasn't been Senator Johnson.
It's kind of an interesting observation, because I can remember Democrats and Republicans making the argument that you just made when they're running against an incumbent, like a Republican running against a Democratic incumbent, saying he or she is not bringing home the money that we're sending to Washington. We're not getting our fair share. So this is not a new argument,
right?
And so you and 28 other mayors
from around Wisconsin, big and small cities alike, that feel, for their own reasons, of course, but right. My reasons are such that, and those dollars get spent somewhere, right? So to take a stand against government spending because you don't believe in it is just a foolish argument when those dollars are going to be sent to places like black holes in New York City or Chicago or California.
It's not like, okay, I'm not going to vote for spending, but okay, if it doesn't, but it's going to get spent.
Yeah.
And it's going somewhere else.
Yep. That's right.
And I've never understood that argument.
Until you get a radical change in the system, which some politicians who have been running on the national scale now want to, radically change the way government works. That's fine. But until that happens, we have to play the system. And for Wisconsin Rapids to be silent or to ignore federal funding streams that might exist on the national scale, like we've leveraged on the state basis, whether it's our DNR grants or whether it's State Economic Development Corporation dollars. We've leveraged over $2 million in my time in office of state aid and federal support. So it's not that dollars aren't to be had. It's a matter of soliciting those dollars and to make a real solid case of why those dollars should be coming back here.
Are we getting our money's worth from those leveraged dollars? I think of like the certified site out at the East Commerce Center. We're still waiting for something from that. So.
Yeah, we didn't receive any federal state dollars on that project. That was merely technical assistance where they, we paid a small fee and then the state provided services through Deloitte to certify the site. We've actually just submitted some information just in the last week to a local company that's considering us over some other sites for development. And we hope that if it's not the certified site, there's some neighboring sites within the East Commerce Park that are ripe for any investment such as they're looking to make here. And so we hope over the coming months, when they make the presentation to their board, that they will ultimately select Wisconsin Rapids. I mean, the nice thing about some of the local investment, there's two of which that are not public yet, but they recognize their operations in Wisconsin Rapids, and they recognize the competitive advantage, the central location in the U.S. If they're looking to open up, in such cases, this company is looking to open up markets in the East Coast, there's no better place than to be in the Midwest because, if they've got operations are there, of course, already because they've got, their critical mass is there, their hiring is there, their leadership team might be here in some cases. So, those, I wouldn't say you get a dollar for dollar back from your investment, but I certainly would rather pair up our federal and state dollars with our local dollars than putting 100% of local dollars into the pot because, one, we don't have 100% of the dollars oftentimes to put in to a potential project. You have to leverage those federal and state investments. The East Commerce Park, my predecessors, both Jerry Bach and Mary Jo Carson, had really leveraged for the East Commerce Park development state T grants, transportation economic assistance grants, which will likely come into play if this developer seeks to make the investment in the East Commerce Park. So you can't simply ignore other resources that are out there when they're at your fingertips.
Oh, you're invited to join in our conversation this morning at 715-424-2600. And Your Honor, you can put on those headsets right there, and we'll get our first telephone caller on the air. Good morning. You're on the air with Mayor Vruwink.
Okay, thank you so much. I just have a few questions for the mayor.
Go ahead.
And I'm a single lady, soon probably going on a fixed income. So I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. But
that's okay. Hey, we're all friends here. Don't be nervous.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm wondering, and don't get me wrong, I think our youth needs a swimming pool in our area. I do. I think it's something good for the youth. But I'm wondering, why did we never have a referendum on that? With it being a $5 million project or even more, I was wondering, and knowing that our mayor, believes, that's our right as a citizen of Wisconsin Rapids. I was wondering his feelings.
Okay, sure. Let's talk about that.
So a referendum specific to the spending on a new pool.
Even if you would put on the referendum choices.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen that before where it says aquatic center, $5 million.
Yeah.
Or a pool or maybe no pool, and have the people of the Wisconsin Rapids taxpayers make their own minds up.
It's entirely possible, particularly on this issue, as you've referenced other places, maybe you've seen that. I think the city council, so it can happen a couple of ways. The first of which is when the city goes to finance the facility. So let's say if the council selects a path, I know it's a little bit in contrary to what you're thinking about putting all the options out in a referendum question. The other couple of pieces to this, so you have to time it right with an election. And so obviously we have a fall election.
Well, we just had our election not that long ago, in just a couple of weeks.
Yes, so it could appear on any upcoming election, let's say it that way, and a resident has the right, as you say, to petition for that election, and so I think the reason why the council and I would consider myself included in that why we would be opposed to a referendum at this stage is because if we go to referendum, it's likely going to push us into the 2019 summer season in order for us to have a pool. And many people are agonizing over not having a pool in 2017, so to have to push it yet another year out for that.
You mean to have a referendum, even like in the last election that we had just a week or two ago, that would have pushed, if to make a vote on what we really need to do, would have, as citizens that are paying taxes, would not have. That was a reason for not having. That was a simple vote, yes, no, or,
Well, let's talk a little bit. I think are you aware there was a survey taken, ma'am?
Well, yes, I did, and I understand that. I think that was probably a very nice idea, but how did you? I mean, to take this survey, not knowing if this was going to be a total decision on this. I mean, the survey was, I felt it was like, do you want a swimming pool? Do you want an aquatic center? Would you be interested in that? And I agree totally, Mayor, that you did it that way, that you asked out and to see if the response was, yes, our community is in agreement. We'd like something. But also, when you are using cell phones as your marker of voting, I don't think you'd ever get as accurate a vote as you will with an election. With cell phones, how do you know where those people are calling from?
Well, actually, the survey was conducted of landlines, only landlines. In fact,
okay, landline.
And they all have to be in the city.
And I really totally agree with you, and I give you credit for taking that survey to get an initial feeling what is happening. But when we come down to the voters of Wisconsin Rapids, giving them the vote, I think is, in my idea, I'm a voter.
Sure.
I believe in voting. I believe in the majority wins.
Right.
And so I have to stick with, I think a vote is the right way. And I can understand,
Let's let the mayor answer some of your comments.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at this stage of the game, it's entirely possible for a referendum still to exist. However, I do believe in working with the council over the last probably 2 years deeply on this issue of aquatics alone. There's 100% agreement and consensus by your elected representatives who've been elected through a majority on the council to invest in aquatics. So I don't believe there's any question on the council, and I don't believe any council member would advocate for a referendum at this stage. Now, you as a citizen have the right to petition for a referendum, particularly on the borrowing part. So where I was going with my original comments were, when the city puts it out to borrow for the facility, there's a window of time where citizens, residents, can petition for a referendum on the spending question. Should the city spend or not spend? It would probably it would succeed any question about options in terms of indoor, outdoor, or splash pads, etc. It would be purely on the borrowing and the financing question. So it's possible. Now, I sort of disagree with you on putting the options out to the public through a referendum question, just because it takes an incredible ground game and grassroots education to make sure the facts are out in front of voters. And I believe in the representative democracy model, that you elect representatives to represent you and make decisions on your behalf to advocate for the best interests of the city. So it's entirely possible. I think there are referendum measures that make a lot of sense to put to referendum. I'm just not so sure that this is an issue that we'd be further ahead or get more information than kind of a flavor of the community by going to a referendum. But I certainly think it's possible, and it's still possible at this stage of the game.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you for the information on that. I appreciate that. But I am still a believer in when it becomes a $5 million to $20 million, that we as voters, taxpayers, should be voting.
Okay, well,
my second question, and I understand, and I appreciate your input on that.
And if you do have, I was going to tell you how you can
thought.
go to get more of the timelines and things. If you did want to, if there are other people that feel similarly with you, I would highly recommend calling the clerk's office at City Hall, and they can provide kind of direction of where to go to get information if you're wishing to file a petition. Because I would imagine there are other people that do agree with you and wish to put this out to referendum. No. The city is not looking to spend $20 million of its own taxpayer dollars. Let me just clarify that as well. I know the newspaper seemed to frame it as a $5 to $20 million investment. We're still thinking it's in that $5-ish million for aquatics, and not anything more, substantially more than that.
Okay. Thank you. And one other question, or a couple questions I have. I hope I'm not taking up a whole bunch of time. But one of the questions is, what is the budget that that will be for this aquatic center? How much will it cost a year to maintain and all the other things that go along with the aquatic center?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because it's two parts, right? It's the capital to construct, and then it's the operations. Our mead pool, the mead pool, the now shuttered mead pool, was about a $75,000 a year annual expense to operate, and that's lifeguards and chemicals and utilities and everything else to operate it. Any new facility, surprisingly, the city subsidy, projected subsidy, the taxpayer obligation to fund it, because we know pools don't make money, they don't cash flow, that it would likely be in that same range for a new outdoor facility. They're much more efficient.
For a new outdoor facility.
For new outdoor, right. So the outdoor subsidy is about the same. Now, if we were to partner with the YMCA on an indoor facility, the YMCA's proposal to date has been that they would cover operational costs of the facility, but we would still be obligated to finance a capital improvement fund, and that hasn't been identified, but that would be any sort of major capital repairs and improvements that need to be put in the facility over its lifespan.
Okay. Now, if this is and what I'm understanding, that it will not be an outdoor facility, but an aquatic center will be an indoor. Is that what we're thinking?
The YMCA's proposal is indoor. Our other alternative option to that, we had both indoor proposal from the YMCA and then an outdoor option. Outdoor options, I would say, prepared by an independent consultant that the city hired just recently to put together some basic drawings of a facility that was purely outdoor.
Okay. Well, real quick. I'm coming up on a break. You got another one real quick?
Well, none of them are real quick. So I'm just feeling that with our infrastructure of our water pipes and our sewers, this is a big project that also is going to have to be looked into, because our town is old. And with and I am not at all against a swimming pool, but I'm probably laying towards more of aquatic center is probably more than we need. I think a swimming pool that furnishes for the summer is fine, but with the activities that the kids have to do in the wintertime, and that's my assessment, and I appreciate you listening to me.
Absolutely.
And answering my questions.
Certainly encourage you to call the office, speak to me or somebody at City Hall about the questions you've got, further questions. And I would also encourage you to call your alderman.
I have.
Oh, great.
I have.
Okay, excellent.
But, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We got to take our first break. I'm going to punch in the caller, and caller, stay on the line. You'll be the first caller back after the break. But you're listening to the Morning Magazine on AM 1320 and at WFHR.com and being viewed on Wisconsin Rapids Community Media.
Good morning, and welcome back to The Morning Magazine, presented by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. It's time for part 2. Once again, here's Carl Hilke.
And we welcome you back to our hourly visit with Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink. You're listening to the Morning Magazine on AM 1320 and streaming live at WFHR.com. And Wisconsin Rapids Community Media is here, and you can view it online at their website or view it on your favorite cable channel where you have public access cable. But the phone lines are open at 715-424-2600 for you to talk to your mayor. And I thank the caller for waiting, and it's your turn. You're on the air.
What I want to know, thank you for taking my call. What I want to know, Lady had all the questions, took up all this time. Do you have a website where she...
Okay, you're breaking up real bad, ma'am. You're breaking up real bad. I can hardly understand you. Okay, hello? Yeah, that sounded like a bad cell connection.
It did.
Okay, let's talk about the fact that the aquatics, there was a meeting scheduled for Thursday?
Yeah, it was never scheduled for Thursday. We didn't have a quorum. We've got a member of the council on vacation, and when special council meetings, you got to have a quorum of 6. So you've got to have 6 members present. So the meeting is actually scheduled for next Monday at 5:30 p.m. in the city council chambers. And the plan, as I understand, council members desire to select a path. And what that means is to decide, do they want to do something indoor with the YMCA through a partnership, or do they want to do something outdoor, or is there some way to do a bit of both? Now, there's been a lot of feedback been shared on the issue of aquatics. We have a lot of passionate opinions as we just took the call, and I consider myself very passionate about dealing with this issue as well, and felt like we should have had this issue put to bed a long time ago, but that's an aside. That's just a small vent. But I would say that council members wish to have action and a path next Monday, at 5:30 p.m. And
is this going to be a committee meeting of the whole, or
it's a special council meeting? So there actually will be taking. I suspect they'll take action. Unless they.
So that means you'll be chairing the meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so by selecting a path doesn't mean that we're going to decide where and how much we're going to spend and what it's going to look like Monday, but we're going to select a path. Is it going to be indoor, outdoor, or is there some contribution that the council members feel that could achieve both? And so where I was suggesting with all the feedback that we've gotten so far is it's safe to say that, of course, we want both. We would love to have both an indoor and an outdoor facility. And so the city has been viewing sort of its contribution as around that $5 million. It could be a bit more if we decide certain features and the public decides that they wish to have certain type of a facility. But, the community can certainly accomplish both. Mm-hmm. The city, as an entity, as a taxing jurisdiction, can probably only accomplish something in that $5 to $6 million range. So to try to put some capital in one and capital in the other, you're really not going to achieve anything of size that's going to serve a population of a community our size. So I would call on, as some people have suggested, the community to, despite whatever path the council chooses, that the community then think about ways to finance the other option, whatever that might be.
Okay, we got another caller on the line. Good morning. You're on the Morning Magazine.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the editorial page today in the paper, but Dennis Kester wrote an article, and he's suggesting it go in by the Boys and Girls Club, and I think that's an excellent idea. They have to do something anyways, and the school district, they could throw that property in. That could be part of their contribution, and you could have, the YMCA partner and have a whole, it'd be like an umbrella type thing with the Boys and Girls Club there, and it's really centrally located, as far as the kids riding their bikes, and I think, and you got plenty of room you could have parking, you could have plenty of room to expand, and I think it's a great idea. I would hope that in your discussion on Monday night that would be another option.
Yeah, it's actually a great suggestion. I know for a couple of things I would comment, though. First, the school district is not looking to gift the property to anybody. They're looking to sell it, and they've got a value pegged about $3 million on the entire property. And I'm not sure if they'd be willing or could be convinced to contributing something. So the city has primarily looked at property that it owns, and so as part of its options, Whitterfield and the existing Mead Park facility being two of the outdoor options that could be considered, with some possibilities for splash pads or smaller fountain type activities in some of the neighborhood parks. So that would be the second piece. And as it relates to partnership with the location, I should say, let me just clarify location piece. The city council has very much desired that this location be accessible by car, but even more importantly by foot or by bicycle. And it's decided that anything east of 8th Street really is not centrally located for the entirety, of the city. And so Whitterfield fits much more central. Obviously, Mead is far less central, but there's even been some talk that maybe something near the mall could be another possibility for a facility that's more centrally located. Another area that was talked about, at least in terms of maybe if it was a partnership with the Y, was near the Y's current location here in Wisconsin Rapids, right? By Lincoln High School. It's more accessible.
That's a very limited area. I mean, you could with the pitch area. I mean, they were talking about at the aquatics, that hour-long thing at the library, of maybe partnering or getting the school district in on it, because they don't have, they can't have meets, and because their pool isn't big enough. Here, I mean, that could be a contribution to the whole project, and you wouldn't have to do everything at once. You could do part of it, and then in the future add on to it. Sure. And as far as the Boys and Girls Club, the kids get there now. It's a residential area. And, the Whitterfield, you got all that traffic on 8th Street and all the other roads around there, so... You got a skateboard park. Tennis courts and tennis courts. Yeah. The kids are bused or are transported by a van. The Boys and Girls Club has to raise finances for annually through capital contributions to finance that transportation, and so the city is viewing this as an opportunity to encourage active transportation where folks can bike and walk to a facility. I don't disagree with you at all that the site, in fact, early on, I would say over 2 years ago, we looked at sort of the layout and the configuration. The challenge with Pitch, where it's located, it really is in a highly residential neighborhood. So to bring a facility, let's say if it's an outdoor facility that has a load of 700 patrons into a neighborhood, really creates conflict, and there isn't the parking ability for us to because you'd have a lot more drivers via car to the facility, that you would need to find a place to park them, and if you're going to be parking them on residential streets, that creates a lot of conflict with the neighbors. But I don't disagree that Pitch and Boys and Girls Club needs to be included in our planning processes. I fully agree. I'm on their board of directors, so it's something I feel passionate personally about. Okay. We got another caller coming in. Right, thank you. Okay, and you're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
Go right ahead.
I'm not opposed to an aquatic center or a swimming pool. However, I really feel that the surrounding areas that use our facilities should have to pay their fair share, and that also includes the library and the Boys and Girls Club.
I appreciate your comment. I know how we're viewing this is very much probably in alignment with your thinking, and that is while the city may finance the construction of the facility, as soon as we select a path, my plan is to invite all of the leaders of the municipalities around us, some of which have had their own pools in the past, with an invitation to think about how they could contribute to either operations of the facility or the construction of a facility. However, we don't want that to derail our process. So I know the City Council is committed to building and investing in a facility for our residents. There will be the opportunity for Town of Grand Rapids, the Village of Port Edwards, and the like, all to consider contributions to a facility, whether it's through borrowing, like the city would do to finance the construction of a facility or contribute to the operations, as well as the non-resident rate, that we need to really develop a rate structure that our residents are not subsidizing non-resident access.
And I'll bring up, I'm going to add on to what the caller said. What I get upset about is when folks from outside the city who are not city taxpayers are telling the city how we should spend city tax money. Well, you said you should do it. Well, do you live in? No, I live in wherever. Well, excuse me.
I'll just grin, Carl. I won't comment on that one.
I know, but I mean, it just as a taxpayer,
I fully agree. I will say I fully agree that it's our tax dollars. The city taxpayers bear the burden of the infrastructure and the community. We are the largest taxing jurisdiction. We also bear the burden of all the infrastructure to carry primarily the economic development that serves the region. But with that said, I do think there's opportunity yet for partnership and collaboration with our neighbors. And I sure hope that this time around they will put some meat to the bones and step up to the plate and really make a contribution that will allow their residents to access a facility that their residents would come to enjoy.
And I do know people that are really, truly on a fixed income in this community. We have a lot of seniors, and we have not gotten any raises, whatsoever. Some of these people kind of live just on Social Security, and the tax dollar means a lot to them, even though, it might not to people that are earning a better income.
Sure.
And not to be fair about, like you said, who's paying for the infrastructure and whatever you mentioned. I really think that they should consider, helping some of these people. It's been this way for years. I guess the library is really the thorn in my side. So
the city makes the largest contribution to operate the library, but it really serves our region. And the county does make a contribution.
But I want a library, don't get me wrong. I just want a fair share of payment so that our tax burden is eased a little.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's the Wisconsin way. There's more taxing jurisdictions in Wisconsin, and therefore we've got so many different political boundaries in the state that many states don't.
Talk about a subject for reform.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Right. And I do understand, and I thank you for letting me put my comments on the air.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your contribution.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Okie doke. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. I'll get this caller on, and then we'll take our last break. You're on the air.
Well, excuse me, just getting in on something that the mayor said about Lincoln High School is against the location, and is there another location where you could have an indoor facility, if that is? And number two, and I'll make it, it won't take 5 minutes, the city people, our citizens have built in the past few years since we've lived here. We did the expressway. We did the Performing Arts Center. We did the rec center where the hockey takes place. And we did the Lowell Center. And what was the other one? And, of course, we're all now much older, and but at the time, there were tax dollars. There were people that paid Social Security, but there were also enough people that could lead it. And the negative idea that you can't do things for crying out loud is so dumb. And then people saying, "Oh, we have 2 indoor pools." Well, that's negative. That's at Lincoln and at Port Edwards. So things can be done, and we can do them. We did it before, and now it's time for the 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60-year-olds to step up and do their share, to do the same thing, because it's their families that are going to benefit from it. And thank you very much for having this, and hi to you both.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the pep talk. I think you nailed it. There's no reason to think that our community can't support or isn't worthy or isn't in a position to make this happen. I think that, surprisingly, as we've entered the pool debate, there's so many communities smaller than ours, even in places like Iowa. You think rural Iowa, Iowa, right? They're building $5-6 million facilities, much of which, though, has been public and private. We didn't hit the private contribution. They're industry that really require and really survive and succeed on great quality of lives for their employees. And so I think the city plans to do, regardless of the option it goes, that we select to really solicit industry backing for this, because we hear all the time that firms, large and small, can't recruit the talent they need to fill the positions they have open at their employment places of employment. And that's a real threat to our economy. It's a big fear that I have, that you've got employers who have job openings and opportunities, but they just can't get the talent or the people to move here or to leave employment to take the position somewhere else. So we feel firmly that, and I know the City Council backs me 100% on this, and that is we need to have a quality of life in this community that makes people want to live here and to grow business here. And so pools and aquatics facilities fit right in with that. Now, of course, you have to be reasonable and realistic about it, but there's my comments on that.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more here on the Morning Magazine. Welcome back to the final portion of the Morning Magazine with Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink. We're going to get right back to the phone calls, because then I got a topic I want to talk about with the mayor involving a block party. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. I should have marked that calendar bigger because I knew the mayor was going to be on this morning, and here I am a little late. But tell me, if you can explain to me, Mayor, the talk about the Mary Pitch School and the Boys and Girls Club, and their ability to sell it and pick a number, any number, because right now anybody can ask what they wish. It's, for sale by owner. But aren't we the owners of Mary Pitch as taxpayers, and aren't we also the benefactors of the Boys and Girls Club? And has there been, that's my first question. And so why can the Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools and just set a price when we own them, as far as I was thinking, but maybe I'm totally wet on this one. And the second question is, have we thought about attaching the swimming pool over to Mary Pitch? And I will absolutely listen off the air, and thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. So in a word, yes, as it relates to ownership, taxpayer ownership in the school. Of course, we elect school board members to make decisions on our behalf. So, are we benefactors of the Boys and Girls Club? Absolutely. I mean, we serve thousands of kids throughout the year, and all of those kids are the same kids that we educate in our public schools, or maybe even our private schools, but probably our public schools by and large. So I think we have an obligation to continue to support the Boys and Girls Club as an entity, and I know as a board member of the Boys and Girls Club, but taking that hat off and being a community member, I do think the community has an obligation and really should see itself supporting the club, because from our perspective as a community leader, if we don't provide safe programming for them at the place like a Boys and Girls Club, they're off out in the streets. It's the same role that a municipal swimming pool plays to some degree, where parents and anybody that's a kind of a guardian of a child can take them to the pool and hang out for the day. So I think we have an obligation. Now, as it relates to attaching a swimming facility to Pitch, the caller did ask about that earlier, and the sentiment of the City Council has been twofold. First of which, the city does not own Pitch, so therefore we've excluded it from our planning purposes as it relates to building a swimming pool. Second reason for that is it's not centrally located for the entirety of our residential population, and so we've sought something more central. Now it's only 8 or 9 blocks away, and that's we've strongly looked at Witter as a facility that would hold an outdoor swimming facility as an option. So those are two answers to your question as it relates to Pitch, and I would encourage you to contact school board members to share your sentiment about what to do with Pitch.
Yeah, and that's the jurisdiction that will have the first. If you think they're out of line with what they're asking for, and you let them know, let the school board members know. Block party. Mm-hmm. I got the thing about a black party at the site of the old Labor Temple. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you're even soliciting photos
Yeah, here we've got a photo coming of you and Pam.
Pam and I were married, had our wedding reception at the Old Labor Temple, and we have a photo somewhere. It's, the sign, outdoor marquee says, "Congratulations, Carl."
Oh, very nice. Okay.
What's the idea? We've talked about this in the past, let's get into this.
So the city took ownership of the former Good Time Charlie's property the 4th of August, and so the idea is now that we control a substantial portion of the entire block, the plan is to celebrate that moment and to educate the community about what the plan is for us to proceed to solicit redevelopment. So last night, actually, at the city council meeting, the council approved what's called a request for qualifications. And what that is, it's a simple document that's published nationally and locally and regionally to solicit developers for their qualifications to redevelop the site. So interested developers will submit, they'll participate in a question and answer session and then submit their qualifications. And it allows the city to adequately screen potential developers. Who's the right fit for the city to redevelop the site? And because it's pegged, it's a 2-acre parcel or 2-acre block for the entirety of the site, it has the potential to realize a $20 million redevelopment. And that's no small development. So we need to make sure that the person's a right fit, that the firm has the right qualifications. And so it's the first step in a multi-step process as it relates to redeveloping the site. So the block party is purely a business after hours style event where we'll have some live music and we'll have some food vendors, and the community will be able to come down and to celebrate and to enjoy what will become a new redevelopment, a multi-story mixed-use development likely that will incorporate housing and commercial space for businesses and restaurants to locate in. And
when is this going to be happening? So
that'll happen actually next Tuesday. So come to Aquatics on Monday. Come celebrate whatever decision the city selects on Tuesday night from 5:30 until 7:30 or 8 o'clock on Tuesday night in the former block, which will held the Jim Spath building, the former Bring Cycling, USDA properties, as well as the Good Time Charlie's Schuf's property, and then we'll have live music. And then the next day, we're actually going to have lunch. So there's over 1,000 people that go to work every day in downtown. And those 1,000 people have lunch, likely somewhere, or maybe enjoy happy hour after work. This will be an opportunity for them to have lunch at the site with a few food vendors as well, in a smaller version of a lunch by the river.
Okay. Real quick, I'll get another call in here before we have to wrap things up. You're on the air. Okay.
It's never enough time.
Well, never enough time. Well, let me see here. Let's get this person. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Mary. I am looking for a small dog.
Oh, hold it. You're trying to call over the back fence. Over the back fence.
A little bit early.
You're a little early. Over the back fence begins at 11:06. So call back at the same number at 11:06.
Well, that way, a caller's looking for a small dog. We'll get a jump on.
We'll get a jump on. Okay. We'll get it.
Yeah. So the event is really merely a celebration. We've got from a city expense. I know some folks have said, well, what's the city spending on this event? It's really a small celebration. No much. People want to spend money on any of the food or drink that they're going to partake in. The city's not sponsoring any of that, but merely we are a member of the Chamber of Commerce, like many businesses are, and so it's our opportunity to have a small business after hours at the site down there. And I'm thinking about, if people are kayakers or canoers, to do a small paddle with myself and others that have canoes and kayaks after that event that night on the river. It's always a great time, and it'll be getting dark about that time, so it's nice to enjoy the sunset.
Okay, so be putting that down as your business after hours opportunity next Tuesday. Anything else before I let you go?
There was action actually to allow leash dogs on the city's rec trails last night. It's
okay, that's something
in the whole grand scheme of things, but very important to those that wish to walk their leashed pets on the rec trails. It'll come back a second time at the next council meeting, and should it pass again, it will take effect in January. And so folks have called and said, we're responsible pet owners. We want to be able to take pets on the trail, and many do already. So it's really a reconciliation of what's happening today and allowing it through the ordinance.
Yeah, I know, because I've been on the trails and I see people, and they're responsible. Yeah. So, I mean, so this would basically just put into legalese what's already happening.
and possibly help our geese abatement challenge down along the trail.
That's true. Yeah, the geese is a big dog coming.
They don't play well together. Yeah.
Okay. Well, an interesting discussion. Again, 5:30 on Fridays when the Common Council special Monday. Friday. Monday is when they're going to have their special meeting. And I guess if people feel passionate one way or the other, contact your alderperson.
That's right. And the city's website, if you do have access, has a whole host of materials related to the aquatics questions and some frequently asked questions about it. You know, we recognize that the indoor and the outdoor facilities are very different experiences for residents, both size and features and access. It's either shared access or exclusive access, where the shared access with the YMCA and its programming, or exclusive access on an outdoor facility. But entry fees being very, very common across both options. And then I would encourage residents to check out the options online, formulate their, their thinking on it, and educate themselves, and then contact their alderperson.
Okay. Well, as always, sir, I appreciate the time. We'll do it again next month.
All right, Carl. Thank you, and thanks to our listeners and all of our callers.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for your participation. It was very good today. And that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Morning Magazine.